Welcome, geometry. We are going to talk about right triangles today. Not the wrong triangles, right triangles. Ha ha ha, that's a joke. Okay, our objectives today, we're going to identify the parts of a right triangle, and we're going to understand and use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for missing parts of a right triangle. This is really important, okay? So, parts of a right triangle. Triangle here, this triangle is called ZXY. And let's label side A. Normally, we talk about triangles, we have sides, but for right triangle, they have special names. So side A is going to be a leg. Side B will also be, let's try not to erase everything we do, huh? Side B will also be a leg, okay? These are adjacent to the right angle, which is right here, okay? Opposite the right angle is the hypotenuse. It is always the longest side of a right triangle, okay? And we have angle Y is acute. And angle X is also acute. We know this because we have a right angle, therefore the other two angles must be acute angles. The Pythagorean theorem: if a triangle is a right triangle, then the sum of the squares of the two shorter sides is equal to the square of the longest side. Now, I tried to draw squares here, and that is exactly what we are talking about. This is leg A, this is leg B, so leg A, leg B, and then we have the hypotenuse C. If I square B and A and add them together, I should get the square of the hypotenuse. Imagine these are rooms in a house, okay? And I'm going to tile these rooms. That means if I use 12-inch tiles, see if I can do this here, sloppy. I'm going to use the same amount of tiles, tiling room A and B, as I would tiling room C, okay? This is a poorly drawn example, but the idea is the same, okay? If I created a square with side length equal to the side length A in this triangle, and I created another square equal to, with side lengths equal to the side length B in the triangle, then the area, those two squares, the area of those squares will equal the area of the square created by the side length C, okay? Now the converse of the theorem, right, which is we just switch the order, the converse is also true. If the sum of the squares of the two shorter sides of a triangle equal the square of the longest side, then that triangle is a right triangle. So here I have triangle ABC. Is it a right triangle? Well, if I take the two shorter sides, which are 3 and 4, and I square them, and I add them together, it should equal the square of the longest side. Well, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, and 5 squared is 25. We're almost there. 9 plus 16, that's 25. That equals 25. So yes, it is a right triangle. Now, using the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? Burn this into your brains. To find the missing length, okay? If I know that this is a right triangle, then I would take the shorter side, which is 8, and square it, add it to the other short leg, which is 9. That should equal c squared. Well, 8 squared is 64. 9 squared is 81. That equals c squared. 81 plus 64 is 145. That's c squared. And I take the square root of both sides to solve for c, and c is the square root of 145. Now, I don't know what that is off the top of my head. So let's go to our calculator here. And I'll just take the square root of 145. That's about 12.04. Okay? Last example. Now we're given the hypotenuse, which is across from the right angle. We are going to use a squared plus b squared equals c squared again to solve, to find our missing leg. Okay, so we want the length of AB. We don't know what it is. So I'm going to take a squared. Let's just say x is my a squared. I'm going to add it to b squared, which is 9, and that should equal c squared, which is 15. C is always my hypotenuse. X squared is just x squared. 9 squared is 81. 15 squared is 225. Now subtract 81 from both sides to solve for x squared. That is 144. Take the square root of both sides, and x equals 12. And we're done. So that's how we use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for missing side lengths, whether it's a leg or here it was a hypotenuse. We have the converse. We can determine if a triangle is a right triangle by using the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Plug in our values, and the left side should equal the right side for a right triangle. If they don't equal each other, then we get a statement that is not true, and we do not have a right triangle. The Pythagorean theorem states that in a right triangle, the sum of the squares, the two shorter sides, is equal to the square of the longest side. And here are the parts of our right triangle. We have two legs, A and B, and we have a hypotenuse, which is the longest side, and it's opposite the right angle. So we identified the parts of a right triangle. We have an understanding of the Pythagorean theorem and how to use it to solve for missing parts of a right triangle.